Majesty, this is Frau Weber. She's my landlady.
Enchanted, madame.
Oh, sire, such an honor. And this is my dear daughter, Constanza. She is the fiancée of Herr Mozart.
Really? How charming. Please. Well, when do you marry?
Well, we haven't exactly received my father's consent yet. Not entirely, not altogether.
Excuse me, but, how old are you?
26.
Well, my advice is for you to marry this charming young lady and stay with us in Vienna.
You see? I told him that, Your Majesty, but he won't listen to me. Oh, Your Majesty, you give such wonderful, royal advice. May I?
Well, there it is. Talk.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino. It's time to start trusting video game reviewers. No, it's not. This article is garbage. To be fair, there's no way an article titled, "It's time to start trusting video game reviewers" could be good. Because to even present this thesis, you would have to be completely unaware of why reviewers aren't trusted in the first place, why journos aren't trusted in the first place. Or you are aware, but you pretend that what people have an issue with isn't happening, or you make strawman arguments, or you just start focusing on something else. So this article, or rather the headline, did the rounds last summer, and I never did get around to actually reading it. I get it. Games journalists are terrible at video games. Remember that one guy playing Cuphead? Let's ignore the fact that games journalists regularly beat entire games in a far shorter time span than regular people who don't have deadlines to meet. Wait, do they?
Is he though?
Are you sure about that?
I didn't know that was a fact. In fact, it's often obvious that journals don't finish games before reviewing them. Journalist mode is definitely a meme about game journos, but it's tied to the fact that people who aren't gamers have infiltrated the space to talk about things other than the actual games.
Oh my God!
Turn a blind eye to the fact that they don't have a single guide to help them beat a difficult boss or access an area with some abstruse entry method like drinking poison that kills you at any other time. Forget about the fact they beat them before the patches arrived to make the game easier. So, even if this were true, what does this have to do with trusting game reviews? He's talking about game journals being great at playing games. At this point, it sounds like the article should be called, "Stop Calling It Journalist Mode!"
Leave Benny alone!
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these journals couldn't just reach out to the devs and get help with certain issues like difficult bosses, or get their friends or someone else on the staff to play through certain parts. I actually remember when God of War Ascension broke Adam Sessler, and besides the fact that he complained about the trophy Bros Before Hoes, calling it misogyny, and basically making such a stink that Santa Monica Studios changed the name of the trophy. He had to get a coworker to beat the Trial of Archimedes section. He was saying it was so hard. A lot of people complained about that section now. Santa Monica had to patch that section out too. But this thing about you have to trust our reviews because we have to beat games at a deadline is nonsense. That's not the point of why people don't trust game reviews or game journals. You had this clown, Adam Sessler, literally lose his shit because of a trophy with a joke title. Calling a woman a hoe doesn't mean you hate women or are calling all women hoes, and forget what it means in slang or urban culture or whatever. It's a phrase people are familiar with, and it fit in context with the scene, it was clever, and it wasn't a big deal. But this is why game reviewers are not trusted. They make a big deal about the dumbest things. They're lipstick, soy, overly sensitive, Karens. They also hate video games and choose to cover this beat because they want to destroy the entire industry. It doesn't matter that wages are low across the sector and crunch is rife, especially when reviewing 100-hour games with bafflingly tight turnarounds. We hate video games and can't wait to tear them down. Isn't he supposed to be arguing against the idea that they hate games? This sounds like all good reasons to hate games. And if he's trying to say only a person who loves video games would put up with all of this,
then say it better!
Ew.
Only ride on the days I want to feel good.
because this doesn't negate the charge that journos hate games and choose to cover the beat to destroy the industry. It seems like all of that enforces it. These people probably wanted to be real journalists, but had no choice but to get into the cultural critic grift and set their sights on geek culture. I'm saying a lot of these feminists and activists, they get out of college with these useless degrees, and then they see how popular geek culture is, and when they look into it, they see all this stuff that their political ideology is opposed to. So they start blogging and networking and getting jobs in quote-unquote journalism. The myth that game journalists not only suck at video games, but also actively hate the medium is one that I've never understood. That's because you don't want to understand, especially when it comes to actively hating the medium. Everybody knows this. If gamers are excited about a game, the first thing journos do is find a way to tear that game down if it doesn't fall 1000% in lockstep with their ideology. If gamers have an issue with a game, journos will be 1000% in favor of that game.
Oh my God!
Ew.
However, the issue with game reviews is much easier to parse. Gaming in 2024 is team-based. You're Team Xbox or Team PlayStation, Team Fortnite or Team COD, Team Stellarblade or Team Censorship, Team Developer or Team Journalist. That's how many gamers see it, at least. No, they don't. This is bullshit. Nobody is Team Journalist but other journalists and the psychos on Twitter who hate gamers. And even they're not actually on Team Journalist. They're just on Team I Hate Gamers. Team Own the CHUDs. And when it comes to this subject about not trusting journos, there isn't really a team developer either, unless the developer isn't seen to be full of activist weirdos. And even with that, it's more tied to the console war, like the Naughty Dog sexuals who defend that studio no matter how shitty they are and how they treat their properties. And this thing about Team Stellarblade and Team Censorship is funny because the people who are pushing for the censorship are the journos. So is he saying that being Team Censorship is valid and we shouldn't hate game journos for being pro-censorship? There's a major problem with games marketing that fuels this feudal misery. Hype trailers for games years away from release whip fans into a fervor, and the excitement heightens to a level where any criticism of the game is seen as a personal slight. When it comes to gaming, it's a personal slight. Calling Stellarblade's protagonist Eve boring meant that you're a part of the pro-censorship wokerati. He just said you're Team Stellarblade or Team Censorship. Calling Stellarblade's protagonist Eve boring meant that you're a part of the pro-censorship wokerati who can't stand a beautiful woman leading a game. Now, see, this is that bullshit. Nobody was calling Eve boring. That's not what that was about. But, okay. The brouhaha over Stellarblade was that Eve was a sex doll designed by people who've never seen a woman before, and that her looks would get women in real life beaten and even killed because men would be mad that real life women don't look like this sci-fi android. And this is where the personal slight comes from. And they're not even slights. If you like Eve's design, you're a misogynist. You're a gooner because you enjoy the sight of an attractive woman. Criticizing studios for taking real-life beautiful women and deliberately making them ugly and masculine is hate speech. There's another issue here to do with reading comprehension and media literacy, but I won't go into that today. It's risible. This guy talks about reading comprehension and media literacy when he's a part of a group of people who, again, will call you a bigot for saying you are tired of deliberately ugly women leads in video games. The same people who spend a year attacking a Chinese studio making a game about a monkey for not being inclusive and, again, talk about reading comprehension. These same people called edgy jokes and crude analogies sexism and misogyny. He's writing for a site that called J.K. Rowling a transphobe for not wanting women to be called people with uteruses. And this asshole's talking about how he won't go into reading comprehension and media literacy today.
Please.
Oh, please.
Team Elden Ring got mad last week when a couple of reviews said that it was too difficult. Accusations flew across the Twitter sphere. The critics behind said reviews were told in no uncertain terms to get good, and suffered far worse abuse, as misogynistic as it was vitriolic. Cuphead has been brought up again. As misogynistic as it was vitriolic. This is it right here. All of a sudden, he's talking about misogyny. There was quote-unquote abuse. Just say abuse. But when you say misogynistic and then don't show receipts, where all throughout this article he's linking to shit he's talking about, then of course no one trusts you.
Liar! Liar! Liar!
He's writing for The Gamer, one of the worst of these sites. It may be the worst. I've said this before. It may be the worst because Stacey Henley is, I think, much more self-aware than most of these journos, but still pushes this ideology and agenda, and attacks gamers for stupid shit like modding their games to make women more attractive, or complaining about Cammy's classic outfit in Street Fighter. Now, the Shadow of the Erd Tree drama wasn't just confined to journos, and the thing was, a large portion of the fan base complained about the difficulty of that DLC too.
This nigga! Oh my god, this guy is so... Why did they make this sucker like this? He just... Bro, this guy is literally like a crackhead boss. Like, as soon as he starts to run out of options, as soon as he starts to lose his freaking drugs and power, this sucker starts... Oh my! I swear there better not be no cutscene. Even that was like, bro, just die. That fight sucks, bro. Miyazaki, you were not cooking. I'm trying to tell you this, brother. From brother to brother, from black man to a Japanese man, you were not cooking with that fight. Most of the bosses that you've created have been good. That fight, you cannot tell me that was a good fight. Avery, you damn right. You freaking damn right, and I complain. You know why? Because this is my stream, buddy. If you wanna talk about the stuff that you wanna talk about, you get your own freaking stream, buddy. This is mine.
Well, there it is. Talk.
Fast forward a week, and players are leveling the very same accusations at the From Software DLC. Countless mods have added easy mode to the game, one called Journalist Mode, despite the fact that journos beat the game without needing it. That's a weird assertion to make, to say despite the fact journos beat the game. The charge is that journos don't beat games, but they review them anyway. And that's just one of the reasons why we don't trust game journos. But he's not actually making an argument as to why we should. He's just saying journos beat the game without it, but how does he know? Players feel bosses aren't fair. They believe the systems are too abstruse, and yet they refuse to engage with some of the game's core mechanics due to believing there are cheats way out. I wonder if any of them have apologized to the reviewers who pointed out these very issues. What the fuck is he talking about? He's lumping all gamers together as if the same ones who said, get good, and quote-unquote attack reviewers were also the ones who said that it's too hard now that it's been released. This guy's an idiot. Does he expect gamers who agree that Shadow of the Erd Tree is too hard to apologize to reviewers on behalf of the get good crowd? It's not just an Elden Ring problem. Clearly not, which is why you're making this article explaining why we should trust game reviewers. When Callie Plaguey reviewed Cyberpunk 2077 for GameSpot, she was hounded by thousands of players for pointing out the game's negatives. Okay, so Callie Plaguey is associated with the Too Much Water line from her Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby review for IGN.
Too many notes.
Now, apparently, it wasn't her line exactly. I guess it was the editor's TLDR version of her complaint. But she already has baggage attached to her anyway. But okay, so he's saying here, when Callie Plaguey reviewed Cyberpunk 2077 for GameSpot, she was hounded by thousands of players for pointing out the game's negatives. She didn't like the edgy aesthetics that played no meaningful part in the gameplay, and so she was labeled a prude. She pointed out offensive depictions of minorities, so she was called an SJW. She called out the technical issues obvious even on PC, so she suffered a barrage of hatred. So he says the game's negatives, like it's an objective truth, but then goes on to say the edgy aesthetics that played no meaningful part in the gameplay. Again, this guy is an idiot. What does the aesthetics have to do with meaningful part in the gameplay? The aesthetics is a part of the world. It's cyberpunk. The aesthetics is the reason why it's a cyberpunk game. So to call that the game's negative is stupid. What does Trust have to do with not agreeing with her dislike of the aesthetics? And this, she pointed out offensive depictions of minorities. She didn't point out offensive depictions of minorities. She pointed out that she was offended by the depictions of minorities. And I don't even know, I didn't read the review, but my point is, if she's saying I am uncomfortable with the depiction of minorities, it doesn't mean that they were actually offensive depictions. I did a video about Eurogamer's review of Forspoken and how stupid it was for the white woman reviewer to complain about people calling Frey a monster, like it was a slur, rather than just something these people in a fantasy land are saying about the strange woman with powers or whatever. So just because some white woman who didn't like Days Gone because Deacon is a gruff white guy with a beard gets offended about race in a video game, it doesn't mean shit. And then the thing about calling out the technical issues. He's lumping that in with what people were actually calling her out for. I seem to remember her being on a podcast or something, complaining about the side quests and how she didn't want to do them. Her whole attitude, her whole demeanor was so dismissive, and the main thing people were calling her out about was how she acted like a role-playing game that offered lots to do was a foreign concept. They weren't attacking her for saying, the game has technical issues. And it's shit like this. This is why we don't trust game reviews. Or game journos. Plaguey was at the receiving end of a whirlwind of abuse from gamers excited for CD Projekt Red's new title, 8 years in the making. Their excitement, as well as the marketing campaign, blinded them from seeing fair criticism as exactly that. Fair. But that's the thing. I know that there are people who will attack reviewers for not liking a game they're excited for. But this is lumping in the fanboys with people who don't trust game reviews because of activism or corporate shilling to maintain access. It's not about criticism. It's the type of criticism. It's what's being said and what is being focused on as what is worthy of critique. It's saying things like, I'm offended by the depictions of race in this game. As soon as you hear that, it's like, you're playing a game in a world where everybody's an asshole, but you're focused on whether or not it's racist to portray the black characters as assholes too. That's not fair criticism. It's not even criticism most people care about. I don't know her, but I imagine Plaguey was excited to play the game too.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Games journalists and critics like games, and yet her 7/10 review sparked days of collective outrage.
Leave her alone!
7 out of 10 from IGN is famous for being the game sucks, that they don't like the game, but they give it a 7 out of 10 anyway in order to maintain their access. So that's not saying anything. And again, it wasn't that review. It was the interview. It was this clip where let me find it.
A lot of side content. There is a ton of side content, which I sure will make some people very happy and worry other folks, because I could see people spending hours and hours and hours just clearing out like gang hideouts, or just doing a bunch of quests, helping out fixers, saving up to buy cars. Like, there is a lot to do that doesn't really make sense for your character to do, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, there's so much that I ignored because I was like, why? Like the thing I mentioned earlier where there were twins that were one person in two bodies. That quest was just like, go brawl some people. And I was like, I don't have time for this. And then like I kept getting texts from people like, I have a car for sale. And it was like, I got a free car. I don't like, I'm good. I don't need to buy any more cars. Yeah, there's so much in the game that doesn't feel necessary. And that like there were definitely quest lines that I did feel were necessary, and like if somebody asked me like which side quest should I do, I would have a list of side quests, but like I think you should absolutely do this one before you finish the game. Like I really loved it, but there's a lot of stuff on the periphery that I was just like, I am never going to use this. Like I crafted like one thing. There's like a whole crafting interface and like all this crafting stuff. I barely touched it. I barely updated my weapons. I went clothes shopping once. Side note,
I went clothes shopping all the time.
Really?
I probably wasted so much time trying to find pants that looked good on V, because I'd find these baggy pants all the time. I'm like, I don't want these. I know it's better, but I'm just going to drive around to every single shop till I find the right one.
I had a really cute outfit from clothes I looted off of corpses. So different strokes, I guess. Yeah, I was like a little shirt, baggy pants, sort of V. And I got some cute stuff. But I even got goggles that say bitch across the front, and they've matched my outfit. And I was like,
I want those.
They were perfect. I loved them. Yeah, there's just a lot of like I would drive by, there's these like, you know, like in Red Dead Redemption 2, you would like walk by something and it would be like an emergent thing happening and you could interact with it. There's stuff kind of like that, but it was just like, help the cops catch these criminals. And I was like, what if I don't want to help the cops? And then I would just drive away. And like, I didn't do a single one of them because I just didn't see the point. So there's a lot like that. I wish that the world felt more essential. I wish like it's so hard to describe because there's so much, you know, but I did some quests and I was like, I don't understand what that was trying to say even, like, let alone why I was just following it because I was curious, but I was kind of like, oh man, I have more important things to do. And to Jake's point, like, there's no actual clock, but it feels like I can't explain it without spoiling things, but like it feels limited.
Is it like
GameSpot should have assigned Jake Decker to review Cyberpunk 2077. However, when the game released, fans saw the truth for themselves. Just days after Plaguey's review was published, a post appeared on the Cyberpunk subreddit titled, "Everyone talks shit about her, but I'm starting to agree with Kelly Plackey." On the whole, the review was more positive than the sentiment on the subreddit. The fan reaction was so intense that a new subreddit, r/low-sodium-cyberpunk, or r/low-sodium-cyberpunk, was set up by the minority of fans wanting to escape the swabs turning on the game for the exact reasons Plaguey pointed out. This is why no one trusts game journals. This asshole's conflating people's reaction to the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077 to Plaguey's review, saying people were complaining about the same things she was, but they weren't. People weren't complaining about the offensive depiction of minorities or the edgy aesthetics or that there were too many things to do that they didn't feel like doing. People weren't going, I don't want to help the police. People were complaining about how lackluster the police system was, about how many promises CD Projekt Red made that didn't make it into the game. They weren't complaining about there being too much. They were complaining about there being not enough.
Because all you people want is more, 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 more!
mean, what gives? At what point do you start trusting game critics and those who review your games? I love how he's acting like he's just dropped the mic with all these receipts demonstrating his airtight logic. You see? Critics said Shadow of the Erdtree was too hard, and a lot of gamers thought so too. QED, bitch! As much as you think we're different to you, that we have different agendas and want to tear down the things you love, we're not.
Sure.
Sure, Jan.
Everything that journos do is about separating themselves, distancing themselves from actual gamers, calling us bigots, complaining about fan service, and not just complaining, trying to destroy studios for making games they don't approve of, lying about the quality of games that feature their approved ideology, giving games like Dragon Age the Veilguard 9 out of 10 because it has an ugly, non-binary character in it. We love video games. No, you don't. We wouldn't do this job otherwise. Yes, you would, especially if you're trying to use the hobby to platform your political agenda. But we have to be honest about our opinions. The thing is, the guy who gave Dragon Age the Veilguard a 9 out of 10 was honest about the fact that he loved the game because it not only has a non-binary character in it, but you can also become transgender in the game by staring into a mirror. So find someone with similar opinions to you. Someone who thinks every game should star a black lesbian lead who looks like a man. Someone who thinks it's inclusion to have a black man as the greatest samurai in all of feudal Japan. Someone who thinks that women's self-esteem should be platformed in a hobby dominated by men. While Eurogamer's review found the DLC so difficult it spoiled their experience, our reviewer relished from software's seemingly insurmountable challenge. I myself play and review a lot of RPGs and text-heavy games because I'm a book nerd at heart.
Me too. Because it doesn't mean what it used to, though, does it?
If you, too, like those sorts of games that welcome valid criticism of the genre, keep tabs on my open critic page.
Yeah, right.
This is how to navigate the media landscape. Find someone your tastes align with or whose criticism you enjoy reading. Find your Roger Ebert. Don't just look at the biggest reviews or the biggest sites, because you lack important context about the person behind the webpage. He's acting like the issue is taste, and like these journos are so different from each other. But the problem is that they aren't. We all know, before the games even come out, what the reviewers are going to say based on the main protagonist, or if there's gay or trans people in the game, or if there are race swaps. Taste doesn't matter, and that's what we keep saying. They're not reviewing games based on their artistic merit or gameplay. They're basing it on things like how many women and how soon do they show up in the game. How many black people are in a game made by Asian studios. You can expect their review to be balanced and fair.
Right.
But it will also be entirely subjective. Reviews are opinions, after all. So you need to dig a little deeper to understand whether this is a perspective that is similar to yours. This is the problem with a profession captured entirely by agenda. These people are not that deep. If it has trans or gay shit in it, the reviews will be overwhelmingly positive. If the protagonist looks like Eve from Stellar Blade, they're going to complain about it and likely even refuse to review it. That's what's so insane about this article. You have to be a synth conducting a thought experiment to write something like this. There's no other way to see it. Everybody knows about cancel culture and woke versus anti-woke. Yet this article is written as if it's just about team sports and not finding the right critic who shares your tastes. If your favorite reviewer writes for an independent zine, go for it. That might be more valuable to you than an IGN or the Gamer write-up. But no games journalist is out to get you. The vast majority try to be fair in their criticism and unbiased when it comes to inconsequential arguments like console preferences. Nobody's going to give Astrobot a 2 because they love Xbox. Nobody is trying to destroy game developers' lives. We're honest. We're opinionated. We're human.
Ah, Mason, heroes, we're heroes. Some of us not recognized as such despite our excellent track record, but still.
Just like you. Bigot? Okay, yeah. Tell that to IGN and what they tried to do to game science. The irony of this article is that it proves the point it's trying to refute.